Hi, greetings again. This is Brian Fields, amateur radio call sign W9CR, and I just got a new mic here. As you can probably tell, probably spent more on the microphone than I did on the camera, but it's actually the one that the Tapper owns, and they were using at Dayton for their presentations this year. I was very happy with it, so hopefully it'll make a difference here in audio quality. This is the first video I'm doing with it. And I guess that leads me into my next part, which is Dayton 2017, or we should say Greene County 2017. It was a bit underwhelming, actually. There's some good, some bad. I was there. Luckily, you can see there our Tapper allowed me to go by their booth again. We did a nice ham-wan demonstration, and it worked out rather nice at their booth. Now, I have a couple things here. So, a couple things I noticed. I got to say, again, just some great things to say about the people at Tapper. I've been a member for a while now. If you're at all involved in, SDR, digital radio, any of the cutting edge stuff, the stuff that I wish I could understand, it's a great organization to be part of. If you have something you're not quite certain how to get it built, but you have an idea, and you have it, working on a breadboard, they can put you in touch with people that can make it happen, and they can sell the kit and everything else. They're doing some stuff on Amazon now. It's a great thing, and it's at $25 a year to be a member. It's great. They're the DCC every year, which is going to be in St. Louis this year, is great to go to. So great stuff to say about Tapper there. But so I always like to start off with some positives, and I got to say, number one, the thing I noticed this year was just a ton of people under 30 or in that age bracket walking around. It was markedly different than the previous years at the Hara Arena. That was a good thing. We probably can't even call it Dayton. It's properly Hamvention. It was in Xenia, I don't know how it's pronounced, Ohio, and it was at the Greene County Fairgrounds. So with that, the venue is nicer, it's newer, it's cleaner definitely than Hara. I've been going to Hara since 1999, and they've not put one iota of money into the building in that time. Just horrible conditions. One of the bright parts of the Hara Arena was they would actually bring in high-end portable toilets that were more or less a trailer with hookups, which was rather nice, because the facilities there were just utterly lacking. But some of the goods was this nice forum space that we have, certainly bigger. Now, I had just some awesome conversations with folks, especially around the ARRL booth, specifically relating to some. There might be some change at the ARRL. I'm a life member, and I hope that they get their act together, quite frankly. And I think a lot of that will be as they've seen, you can't just have, and no offense to older people, but you just can't have the same 5 guys, 6 guys doing everything that have been doing it for the past 30 years. There's experience to build off of. But example, I didn't speak at Tapper this year at the forum. We had less time at the forum, but you have to get some new blood in there, and that's, I think, one of the things they're open to, at least the people I talk to. So, anyways, that, and there's actually some good stuff to eat around there. We ended up going to Fleming's with probably about 12, 15 people. We wanted to go somewhere where we were pretty certain there wouldn't be any ham. So Fleming's, excellent service, great, everything was great. Really enjoyed it. Make a great martini with a couple of blue cheese olives in it. They do a good job there. So we had a lot of fun there. Other than that, getting into some of the bad is the forum spaces, while much nicer, were the only air-conditioned places. The majority of it was unair conditioned, was untemperature controlled, was just a barn basically. Where Tapper was inside, we went from being at the Hera Arena in an air conditioned, or at least somewhat climate controlled environment. They had their mechanical issues, but it was supposed to be air conditioned. It was most of the time we were there. To an unair conditioned space that was, had ventilation, I guess, because they opened both doors at the end of the barn, but it was basically, paddocks for what would have been the hog competition or something at the county fair. So, the other issue was not just that, but the delays getting there. We had 2-lane roads. I typed some of this up, so I'm going from that. We had 2-lane roads going in and out of the Hamfest, and they had one road going to parking. Had 30-some-odd thousand people show up, and of course, everybody's going to bring their own car and everything else. So that was, I had reports of people sitting 1 to 2 hours in traffic. I saw kind of the tail end of it myself. It was pretty bad. Luckily, again, the nice thing about being with Tapper is, and presenting there, was being able to get slightly better parking, but still, there wasn't much you could do. There's one road in, one road out. Now, the absolute worst was the difference between Hera, which was a paved area, versus the infield and the grassy area that we were put on. It was just grass area that we were put on in the infield of like a horse track. It was also much denser. I had a friend of mine who allowed me to sell in his tent, and we kind of hang out, see each other at that. He was there. He had a 30 by 30 tent professionally installed. And the people from Hera, well, not Hera, the Hamvention, came by demanding we move the tent after it was set up under their direction on Thursday. It's just not going to happen. It ended up a lot of back and forth. What had happened is they hadn't laid out the labels on the spaces correctly. So that was smaller. Was lack of planning there, but that's something I could overlook. The real bad thing is it was on grass, so of course it rained, and everybody was driving in and driving out. This turned it quickly to mud and muck. I think people comically referred to it as ham stock. So it was not suitable. And unless they have it at least somewhere paved, I mean, Hera, while their paving was coming up and you'd have some bad potholes, at least it was paved. It had drainage. This just turned to mud, and it was pretty bad as soon as it started raining. We were okay inside the tent, but we were at the kind of far back side of the area there, and after about probably 11 a.m. on Saturday, nobody else came by the tent. People were going home already. It was just, we even decided not to come back Sunday and just pull up and go. So that was a really, really bad thing. I don't believe that's correctable at the current place if that's going to be it. And the other thing I'll say is I travel for work, so I had relatively nice shoes with me. Luckily, I had some shoes I use for going to the gym and whatnot with me as well. I normally don't always pack those. Those basically got destroyed from mud. I couldn't take them on my carry-on. So the space is also much smaller than Hera was as well. Tapper had a smaller space this year, and quite frankly, it was the same cost. Everything was the same, except it was smaller for what we paid, and it was also unair conditioned. So with that, I'm like, we're not getting the same value that we got for our money. And people will say, it's a nonprofit, DARA, and they're trying. Well, that's true, but you're a nonprofit, and you have to put stuff on properly to get people to come back. So the other thing that was really disturbing was nobody planned to get cows out there. And I'm not talking about the moo kind. I'm talking about cell sites on wheels. There was abysmal coverage of I have Verizon, a Verizon out there, and it was unsuitable. We it's going back to 1X kind of a thing. You would go into the forum, and there was Wi-Fi in the forums. However, it was $150 to use the Wi-Fi, and you had to prearrange it. There was no free Wi-Fi. You go to Friedrichshafen in Germany, which is their major hamfest in Europe, you have free Wi-Fi. You go out west, you have free Wi-Fi. That should just be something that's there to take load off the cellular network if you're not going to bring in, AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile and all these people to put up cows. One or two would have been fine, at least to take some of the load off all the other cell sites. That's unacceptable about something that we're, communication. I can't pick up my phone and make a phone call because of it, or I can't text somebody a picture kind of a thing. Because as soon as you go into the building, you don't have LTE anymore. You don't have CDMA. You're down to 1X, and you can't even load the speed test page. That's how bad it was. That needs to be rectified. That's something that could easily be fixed. So, the other thing I'll say is, with everybody kind of packing up Saturday afternoon, there wasn't as much time to get around to see everything between, having to sell and so forth. The good thing is I did sell all the 220 equipment that I brought with me, but, again, I had to ship it there. So I wouldn't say money ahead because, it's probably a $1 to fly in and get your hotel, get your car, and do all that stuff. And it's a destination ham fest. And my take on this is, well, you know what? I can go to Orlando, the Orlando Hamcation in February, which is 90 miles from my house, door to door, and see the same vendors inside commercially in air-conditioned equipment space at a county fairgrounds, see vendors outside that come from all over the United States that are on, maybe not necessarily they're on paved roads, but most of the areas where people are walking are paved. The spot that they're in may be off, in the gutter area. It's, right up to the paved road where you set up. There's a lot better space like that. And it's quite frankly more reasonable. Now, they don't have free Wi-Fi out there, but they do have cows. They have a cell site right there. They've planned for this to have coverage. So, in terms of a destination hamfest, unless they change the venue next year, myself will not be attending the 2018 Hamvention. It's an unsuitable place to have a massive show. Dayton, Ohio is hard to get into. You either have to fly into Columbus or possibly fly into Chicago and then take a flight over from Chicago to Dayton. It's just very hard to get into and out of. You can do it in Orlando, and I really think the Orlando Hamcation will grow. Orlando, easy international airport. You can fly from all over the world there. You can bring your family. You can do other things. It's just a much more suitable place and much more suitable facility from what I've seen. You have your Pacificon Hamfest and so forth out west. Much better. I could even see myself flying out for that. But if I'm going to fly to a destination Hamfest, I'm probably going to spend a little bit extra, go international, and go to Friedrichshafen. And that's a much better facility, a much better experience, and they have much better beer as well. So, again, the one thing to take away from this is we have some great new people getting into amateur radio. That's an awesome thing. I saw some old friends, saw some new friends, met some new people there, met people I'd talked to, 5-10 years ago that were there. So it was great. But the totality of it is, I'm going to spend my money, I think, in other areas now because I can't justify going back to Dayton once again because they had 1 year to get it right. They knew they were moving, and they failed to deliver, in my opinion. So that's they're going to say, well, we'll get it right next year. Well, that's not how these things work. I understand they're a nonprofit. They're doing this. They're trying to organize it. But when you have an event of this size, it has to be a commercial event, and whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit entity running it, if it was held like this by anyone else, I wouldn't be back, and I'll say the same thing. I'm not going back next year unless there's a change of venue and some of these concerns have been addressed. So that's my feedback on Dayton 2017. And if you saw me there, please comment. And I really enjoyed seeing everybody there. And anyways, 73s to everyone. This is Brian Fields, amateur radio call sign W9CR.